वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. In this 60-second class online on Bhagavad Gita, we continue with chapter 3, which, as all of you know, is titled Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not only recommended but also insisted upon, and Sri Krishna goes to the extent of saying that those of us who do not get down to Karma Yoga actually live a sinful life. He gives us a warning. You better stop all your selfish actions and enrich your life with only service-minded action, which alone will not bind you. All other work binds you. We saw in the last class how in the 13th shloka he says, those who are taking from others, from the society, from gods, or even from one person under the same roof, those who go on taking without giving what they are able to give, they live in sin. Agham bhunjate, papam bhunjate. They eat sin. In due course of time, the karma siddhanta shows its effects. Then those people wonder, why this to us? Why this suffering to us? What have we done? They may not remember how they lived selfishly and denied to others what they were very much capable of giving. No Shastra asks us to give to somebody what we don't have. When we have enough to share, we must share. Now we take up in a little bit of detail in the shlokas 14 and 15 of this chapter 3, the important concept of the order in the universe. There is an order that Lord Paramatma has set. There is a sequence in which things have got to progress. And if anybody does not cooperate, does not play her or his role, then she or he is in for trouble. This is called the Jagat Chakra. Chakra literally means a cycle. However, in a way it is a cycle, no doubt. However, it is actually a certain sequence that has to be maintained. If you and I are a member of an orchestra and there is a music director, a person who is conducting the group song, it is our duty to play the instrument in our hands in accordance with what the group is doing. If I have violin and someone is beating a drum, somebody is giving the vocal. I don't have to what the person before a drum is doing. I don't have to sing with my voice, but I have a violin in my hands. I have to play that violin properly. So this idea of all of us do have a certain role to play. We have our swadharma, we have our swakarma, and we must do it to the best of our ability. Give first and then expect results is the clarion call of Bhagavad Gita. 14 and 15 go in this way. Sri Krishna says, Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyaha yajna karma samudbhavaha karma brahmodbhavam vidhi brahmakshara samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishthitam. Above all, as the last quarter said, nityam yajne pratishthitam. God, or that supreme reality, knowing which we get freed from all agitations, such God is constantly, nityam, pratistham, established, is ever present in yajna. Nityam yajne pratishthitam. Therefore, yajna is not to be undervalued. And what is yajna for us? While one more time we do respect the ritualistic form of yajna, in this broader discussion, yajna means performing our duty and serving people around us, the world in general, to the best of our ability. Therefore, seva. Seva is a popular word, service. Our life should be a song in service of others. We are never tired of pointing out that this service to others doesn't have to hit the newspapers. It doesn't have to bring to us some national or international or some local awards, known or unknown to others. Our conscience is the voice that guides us. If our conscience says, hey, you are not living selfishly, you are doing what is expected of you, then that is yajna. So whether it is a single person, a little community, or nationwide, worldwide, and so on. Everybody doesn't have to win a Nobel Prize for peace. Everyone doesn't have to get a Padma Shri or some such award. Those things are incidental. They are some sort of side products which don't have to come about every time. Many a time, people who have not got any award have done more, have released about more than the authorities in charge of giving these awards. So yajna is the center of these two verses also. Therefore, for a few classes now, we have been trying to understand yajna. Let our yajna, let our life be rooted in yajna, should be our prayer. So let us see what that order, vyavastha, suvyavastha, is order. When there is that order, everywhere there is prosperity. Others are happy. We too are happy. We find our happiness in the happiness of others, and others promptly, duly make us happy. As earlier it was said about human beings and gods. Parasparam bhavayantaha shreya param avapsyatha. So, first of all, start with the existence of all of us, living beings. Where did we come from? In the light of this order, this sequence, Sri Krishna would say, with emphasis on the physical form of ours, we have come from food. It is food that our parents took. It is food that finally brought us out at our time of our birth. And once we are born, we start consuming food. So food is what sustains life on the earth. Food in Sanskrit is annam. Annad bhavanti bhutani. All living beings come into being. In Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhragu inquires, what is the truth of this whole universe? And first he figures out, Annam Brahma iti vyajana. Well, what is most important is food. That's what he concludes. That's what he infers upon some basic observation. Then he discovers prana, then manaha, then vijnanam, then ananda. And then by implication, he realizes that there is an invisible force, the invisible existence, the truth, Brahma. So especially in the second chapter, Brahmananda Valli, and the third, Bhragu in the Taittiriya Upanishad of Krishna Yajurveda, the importance of Anna is highlighted, and later on, holding our hand, the Upanishad helps us see the significance of that all-pervasive, undivided Advaita Brahma. Here, all living beings are up and active, running about energetically, vibrantly, thanks to Anna. But where does Anna, food, come from? It is said, Parjanyat. From time immemorial, Parjanya, rains. Rains have been the symbol of prosperity. When it rains in the right quantity, at the right time, Kale varshatu parjanyaha prathivi sasya shalini. We have the Shanti mantra or peace invocation. May it rain at the right time and in the right quantity is implied. The right time, but too much of it, ativrishti, can be dangerous. At the right time, but too less of rains, anavrishti, both these are dangerous. Parjanyad anna sambhavaha. When it rains well at every place, there is a good crop, vrihi avadi, rice or wheat or all those grains. And as you and I know, even non-vegetarians should never forget that the animals which are used for food by some percentage of humanity, those animals eat vegetarian food. They grow, they draw nourishment from varieties of leaves and vegetables and grains and whatever. And those are possible if there is good rain. Parjanyad anna sambhavaha. So we started with living beings, including you and me, the humanity. Then we came to food. Food led us to rains. How do rains come about? This is where our central concept, yajna, comes into the picture. Yajnat bhavati parjanyaha. In fact, in these two shlokas, if you ask me, what is that punchline? What is that quarter which we may highlight or underline? I would say this, Yajnat bhavati parjanyaha. It has vast significance in our day-to-day life. If we feel impoverished, either physically, we don't have enough money to spend, we don't have enough large enough house to stay in, and so on. Material poverty. Or if there is emotional poverty, we neither receive enough love, nor are we able to feel love in our heart towards others. Let's say that is the problem. Then yajnat bhavati parjanya. Perform yajna, then there will be rains. Yajnat, from yajna, parjanya, rains. That rains could be material prosperity on one hand, and it could also be emotional well-being. Stephen Covey, the author of that famous bestseller, 7 Habits of Effective People, highly effective people, used the expression emotional bank account. When we serve people, they have greater and greater trust and goodwill, then it is a deposit, it is something credited in our emotional bank account. When we hurt others, when we deny to them what we owe them, when we are so selfish that we don't give them what they should get from us, we only go on taking from them what we ought to get from them, then Stephen Covey would say, our emotional bank account will go on getting drained. It will have lesser and lesser deposit or balance. So, Parjanya is literally rains, but please note, in all languages under the sun, rains have always been used figuratively as a symbol of prosperity, material prosperity, intellectual prosperity, emotional prosperity, you name it, any kind of prosperity is Parjanya. I want to prosper. I want to get rich, literally or symbolically, figuratively, or in a subtle way. Yajna is the means. Serve people, give to them all that you can give. That is the golden key to yourself getting richer and richer in the way you want. Once more, materially or in some other form. In the examples of great people, we found that they never went around saying, give me money, give me funds, I have a project, and so on. Rather, they were served and served. Pujya Swami Chinmayanandaji came to Pune and worked very hard day and night and gave so much to people in growing numbers in Pune and Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore, Chennai and Ernakulam, everywhere. He just went and went on giving. His great saga of giving was a yajna. And then in about 10 years after he began his work, yajnat bhavati parjanyaha. Everybody in Bombay and Delhi, in Kolkata and in Madras, which is today called Chennai, well-placed people, resourceful people. He was from Kerala. a Malayali, Indian, though all his work was in English, but because he conducted this giving, he gave Jnana, therefore it was called Jnana Yajna. Sindhis and Gujaratis, Maharashtrians and Odisha, Oriya people, no bar, no division, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from West Bengal to Gujarat, everywhere people rained, so to say. They showered their contributions so that he could build institutions, he could train more people, he could expand his good work. Not that he first began saying, I want to do all these things, and went with a begging bowl. First he gave. Therefore, when we, for some years, for some good length of time, we go on giving, then it generates the so-called rains. Rains means very favorable results. As we had said before, the word yajna is connected to selfless service, and the word devaha previously had a hidden meaning, the productive potential in any field. So you tap the productive potential. Even the plain land has the potential to bring forth a lot of crop. You have to till the land, water the land. You have to ensure that after putting the seeds, you also supply the fertilizers and so on. Then rest of it is magic. From that acres of land which were just lying idle, so to say, apparently at least, you have crops rising. Some of the crops rise so tall, and in the breeze they swing as though singing a song, and very soon you take all the crops and the town becomes very prosperous. So the productive potential, whether in physical earth or in some kind of setting, some population, some community, they are in need of something. Go and serve them if you have that ability, the skills, if you have the temperament. Nobody says you must do what is outside your nature. Everybody has a certain temperament. That's Swadharma. Somebody is good in handling finance, somebody is good in administration, somebody is good in writing poetry, somebody is good in speaking, somebody is so on and so forth. Everybody is given some gift, some special skill. Nobody is useless. So, ayogyaha purushaha nasti, says a subhashita. Ayogyaha purushaha nasti. Nobody is totally unfit. Everybody is fit for something. Yojakastatra durlabaha. Our own common sense and intelligence, and above all, sincerity. And then somebody suggests to us, why don't you do this? Why don't you take up this? That called, such a person is called Yojaka, who connects us to a particular field of activity. Then we find, wow, I was born, I guess, to do this. I am meant for this field of work. So the matching between the person who does and the field of work that he takes up is matching is important. That is yojana. All right. Yajnad bhavati parjanyaha. Therefore, the solution to all poverty is yajna, selfless service. Yajnaha karma samudbhava. And yajna is not just conceiving in the mind. One has to get down and do. Whether it is the Vedic ritual, where elaborate arrangements are made, chanting Veda mantras, offerings are made into the fire, or service, sincere hard work, sweating and toiling in any particular field, that requires karma. Yajnaha karma samudbhavaha. What is karma here? In the broader sense, secular work definitely. But Sri Krishna carries together the traditional meaning and the broader liberal meaning all along. So he gives a hint of the traditional meaning, saying, Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi. Here Brahma stands for Veda. The word Brahma has many meanings. Brahma doesn't have to always mean the supreme reality. Brahma can mean the Veda. Brahma at places can mean Omkara, Om. Brahma can mean one of the four Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Brahma means Brahmana over there. And here Brahma means the Veda, the holy, the sacred Vedas. In the Vedas, a lot of karmas have been defined and prescribed. So you must know karma from Veda and then do it. After all, every work has some guidebook. How to stitch, how to cook. YouTube is full of so many channels where people, especially many housewives, posted on the YouTube how to prepare this, how to prepare that recipe, and so on. So today YouTube is like Veda. From the YouTube, find out. Well, whether it is preparing a recipe or even using some gadget, some hardware, some software, everything is on the net now. A friend of mine here bought other day through Amazon a new gas stove, what you call LPG stove. So how to open it, how to use it? First, go to YouTube, put that model name. So it gives in beautiful detail through a video. Open it this way, put the parts together, and so on. Finally, how you light up the flame on that new LPG stove. So small and big things are all to be learned through a source of knowledge. YouTube these days has become a source of knowledge for a lot of challenges. But in a larger sense, the Vedas are the source of knowledge. Karma Vedodbhavam Viddhi. Brahmodbhavam here means Vedodbhavam. It's a Bahuvrihi Samasa. Brahma Udbhavaha Yasya Tat. Karma is something for which Brahma is the source of all guidance. Therefore, study the Vedas. And last but not the least, the link in the 7-member sequence. And we are justified in calling it a chakra because that Brahma, and the last one, Brahma as the supreme reality, the word used is Akshara. Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. Where have Vedas come from? Vedas come from Supreme God Himself. It is said in the Vedas, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself, and later in Manusmriti and so on, that Vedas are the very breath of God. Yasya nishvasitam hi Vedaha. Breath. A living being breathes out and breathes in. Likewise, God breathes in and breathes out, and His breath is the Vedas. So God is called Akshara here. While the word Brahma meant the Vedas, Akshara means the supreme truth. Brahma, that is Vedaha, Aksharat Udbhavanti. Vedaha udbhavanti, they rise, samudbhavanti, yasmat, brahmanaha, aksharat. Akshara is the supreme reality. So, after saying this, giving to us 7 members of a orderly sequence, anywhere somebody disturbs the order, she has to pay for it. The result is inevitable. Sri Krishna concludes this Yajna Chakra or Jagat Chakra Varnanam saying, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma Nityam Yajne Pratishtitam. So, this Brahma, which is everywhere, which is found everywhere, as you have so the word Brahma could be taken when it again appears, the last part, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma, could be taken once more as Vedas. The wisdom of the Vedas is everywhere. It pervades the whole universe. Or we may take the word Brahma in this expression, Tasmat Sarvagatam Brahma, as the Akshara Tattva. God or God's breath, the Vedas, are everywhere, but they are especially present in Yajna. Sarvagatam Brahma, though everywhere, present everywhere, in a very special way, in a very prominent manner, this is Brahma, the divinity, is to be found, is to be recognized in every act of selfless service. Discharge of duties and responsibilities with no insistence on personal reward. Phalasakti rahita nishkama karma. Nityam yajne pratishtitam. Thus, we have old and new stories. Again and again, this fact gets proved again, and so on. To mention briefly, it is said that a mongoose whose body was half gold, half of its body was gold, other half was not, had come at the end of the Rajasuya Yaga that Yudhishthira had performed. Some grains had fallen on the ground. This half gold mongoose rolled on those grains and then got up and with much disappointment said, I thought you performed a great yajna. I am not sure whether it was really all that great. Yudhishthira was shocked. Swami Vivekananda narrated this story, one of the places, in one of his lectures in the good old days. But the story apparently is from Mahabharata. Then the mongoose said, I once was a witness to a great act of sacrifice. There were 2 very poor people, husband and wife, and to make the long story short, they hardly had anything to eat. But when a guest arrived, they first gave their portion, and then husband gave his portion to the guests. When the guests were not appeased, their hunger was not gone, the wife gave her portion, and even the children said, we will fast, we will go without food tonight. Let's give whatever little food remains to the guests. And the husband, the wife, the son, and the daughter, all of them remained hungry, and they gave the food they had, whatever 4 or 5 rotis and some vegetables. They gave to the guests. The guests were satisfied. But these 4, the same night passed away, unable to bear the hunger. They were hungry probably for a few days. This night they were about to have some food. Then these guests came knocking at the door. And then this mongoose saw it all. The mongoose somehow was hiding somewhere, and the mongoose saw it all. Then it looked at the floor. There was some flour, that is the atta, the, the powder with which the roti or chapati is made. And this mongoose rolled on that powder, that flour, and half its body became gold, because that flour was what was yajna shishta, what was left after an unbelievable act of service had been performed. So it had God, it had divinity in it. And when the mongoose rolled upon it, there was not much of flour after all, and mongoose became half gold. And then mongoose was looking forward somewhere else if there is a great act of service. Yajna, I will go there and I will roll ne pratishtitam. Adi Shankara says, Annat bhuktat. Upon consuming food, the food turns into inside our body. Lohita retaha parinatat. Some portion, so to say, becomes red, some becomes semen, parinata, changing. Pratyaksham bhavanti bhutani. Living beings come into existence. We explained this. Living beings, even an embryo grows because of the food that the mother eats. Then after birth, the child grows and grows taking food. And then how does food come? Parjanyat vrishtehe annasya sambhavaha. So, parjanyat anna sambhavaha. Anna sambhavaha here is not bahuvrihi. It's a simple tatpurusha. Annasya sambhavaha. Coming of or the production of food, that's all, is from parjanya, from rains. Yajnad bhavati parjanyaha. The line we wanted to underline. Shankara gives a quote from Manusmriti, where it is said, Agnau prasta huti samyak adityam upadishtate aditya jayate vrishtihi vrishte rannam tata prajaha. In a certain way of describing, it is said when people perform yajna, they offer various permitted or even recommended material into the fire. Agnav prasta. Asta itself means thrown. Pra asta. Thrown, chanting some mantras. Samyak. Done rightly. What happens? Aditya. The subtle form of it reaches the sun. There are divine forces in action. Today, in the internet technology, we press a button on our mobile or on the laptop. It reaches some server, from server it goes somewhere else. And what it brings here or what it takes from here to another part of the world, the technology is unbelievable. Likewise, the Vedic ritual technology involved certain subtle aspects of that offering reaching the divine forces represented by Aditya. Then some other divine forces get down into action, and finally Aditya jayate vrishtihi, rains come about, vrishtehe annam, from vrishti, food, and tataha, from annat prajaha. Iti smritehe. Manu is after all a smriti, not Veda. If it were Veda, Shankara would have written iti shrutehe. Shrutihi iti Vedaha, smritihi iti aneke anye granthaha. Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, and so on. Even Bhagavad Geetā is regarded as a smriti. Yajnaha apurvam. Yajna does not instantly bring forth certain results. When you perform a yajna, once more, either the ritual or an act of service in any field, your karma gets stored and it remains for the right time to express as the result. So between the moment when you had performed the karma and the moment when the phala comes, it is stored in a certain form. That energy is stored somewhere, and that is called apurva. Apurva is a technical word. So yajna remains as apurva. A grand Vedic ritual, let us say, is performed, and it went on for many days, let us say. A lot of gifts were given. People took gifts and went away, and a lot of people took food, lot of Vedic chants, lot of other associated actions were performed. All right, all right. After all that, maybe after several months of previous preparation, actual performance, then dismantling, etc., finally, nothing is left there. It looks just like a regular field. What about the results of yajna? Hold on. That yajna which was performed properly does not go a waste. Apurva. It stays in a certain subtle form. That applies to your noble actions also. Even after the action is performed, for a long time to come, it remains as apurva and it delivers the goods. It brings forth results at the right time. Some take a long time, some other karmas take short time. Sacha yajnaha karma samudbhavaha. Sri Krishna and Sri Shankaracharya, to begin with, give the traditional meaning. What is that? Ritvig yajamanayoho cha vyaparaha karma. So the traditional ritualistic meaning is Ritviks, the priests, and a yajamana, a certain moneyed person who organizes this. Vyaparaha, they get into an activity. That is called karma. In any field, you just adapt it. In any other field of service, you have various players. Like you begin a company, a startup. Some venture capitalists have supplied funds. A basic initial team, technical and non-technical, have got together. And they visualize a product, they work towards it, they bring it forth, they release it. The society is happy, let us say, to get those new products. Everywhere there is excitement. So all that is also a vyapara, an activity. And if the purpose is to be of service to humanity, that is yajna. If the purpose is just to make money, then that is selfish. Money is definitely a part of the whole matter, but it should play the second fiddle. Primarily, it is to be of service. So, tata samudbhavaha, tata samudbhavaha, from yajna, parjanya came. Yajna itself comes from karma. Yajnaha karma samudbhavaha. Then karma brahmodbhavam vidhi. Adi Shankara explicitly says, Brahma iti Vedaha. The word Brahma here means Veda. Brahma, as you know, sometimes can mean the Chaturmukha Brahma, one of the Trinity, Vishnu and Shiva, right? And Brahma can sometimes mean, some minor god also. Long back I was told there is no temple for Brahma. Then they said there are one or two, one in Orissa and one in Rajasthan, Pushkar or somewhere. Then suddenly one day I heard that on the west coast of Karnataka, in the city of Mangaluru, Bangalore, there is a Brahma temple. I didn't go in, but I was very near there once to meet a friend. I asked, what is this? You have a Brahma temple? Then I was told, oh, this is not that supreme four-faced Brahma of the Trinity. This is a local god. So some local god also is called Brahma. So there are, some communities have their own little Grama Devata, some form of, so various names are given. There are some deities, some powers. And those who do not understand all this may look at it as weird. But actually, in Hinduism, even if there are countless forms of gods, they are all tied together. All of them are major or minor expressions of one God only. In Advaita Vedanta, one God who ultimately has no name and no form appears in many ways. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Varuna, and on and on. Then avatars, Rama, Krishna, and so on. Interestingly, a Vaishnava friend of mine once said to me, all along we were told many gods in Hinduism. Now though I was born a Vaishnava, I never studied my own philosophy till I was 45, he admitted. And he said, now, after succeeding in my profession, after settling well financially and otherwise, I have begun to study my own Vaishnava Siddhanta. I said, okay, so what did you discover? He said, in our Vaishnava Siddhanta, there is no polytheism, not many gods. There is only one God, the Vishnu. So in terms of a hierarchy, in Vaishnava and Sri Vaishnava philosophies, in Sri Ramanuja's Sri Vaishnava and Madhvacharya's Vaishnava philosophy, they may talk about other gods, but rather than saying all of these are as though equal, etc., they have a clear hierarchy. Hari, Vishnu is top. And in a manner of saying, he is the only God. Others just draw power from him. Vishnu is the only God. So, my friend said, I now realize my Western friends, this friend was living in US. He said, my Western friends often said to me that you have polytheism. I'm now going to tell them, we have monotheism, Vishnu and Vishnu only. The rest of them are just like you have Jesus, Mary, and so many, but one God up in the heaven. Here too, we have Mahavishnu. He is the only God. So that is especially so in Vaishnava, Sri Vaishnava, and maybe some Shaivite traditions, Shiva, nothing above Shiva, nothing equal to Shiva also. Whereas in the regular Advaita outlook, you have the Ishta Devata concept. Shiva, for a lot of people, is supreme, others are one notch below. Vishnu is supreme, others are one notch below for another group of people. And this Shiva, this Vishnu, this Brahma, and Rama, Krishna, Devi, Ganesha, all of them are manifestations of one God. So, Brahma here is Vedas. Karma Brahmodbhavam Vidhi, Brahma Akshara Samudbhavam. And what is Akshara? Aksharam Paramatma. In this context, Akshara is Paramatma. The word Akshara also has many meanings. Akshara can mean alphabets. Akshara Abhyasa. For a little child, first time the child is made to write Om or on a plate where they spread some rice. On the rice plate, uncooked rice. The child writes with the help of mother. So, but that is different. Here Akshara is Paramatma. Yasya tad Akshara Samudbhavam Brahma Vedaha. So Vedas come from Akshara. How do we know? Smriti and Shruti. Yasmat Sakshat Paramatma Akhyat Aksharat. Purusha Nishwasavat. Like the out breath. nishwasa, like the out breath, breathing out of a man, from God there came the Vedas. Tasmat sarva artha prakashakatva. These Vedas which reveal, prakashaka is reveal, all things in the world, in life, that is ever present in yajna. And because Vedas are the outbreath of God, God is present in yajna. Therefore, never undervalue an act of service. Don't say, I have been so foolish doing things for others and my own progress got thwarted. I remained behind. I helped so many people and today I am nowhere. Many of them whom I helped have all reached high places. Like that, sometimes our, mind complains. Gita says, no. You are serving them, you are helping them, you are putting your own work to the side and going and helping somebody can never go a waste. Yajna is never a waste. Don't say you lagged behind because you helped others. That cannot be the reason. Probably you went and helped somebody and then when you came back, you had some time. Then you didn't do your own work. You sat and watched television in olden days or checked mobile for whatever videos and so on in modern times. Helping them did not make you stay behind. When you had time with yourself, you didn't do your own work. In life, it's necessary to do your own work and to do others' work. You have to balance both and check again. Probably you wasted a lot of your time and took pleasure in work, helping others, but you had more time with you. You had more resources with you. You had everything to do your own work also. But you put your legs up and went on watching television or you read newspaper and so on. Your list of tasks to be performed remained untouched. That was the imbalance. Therefore, serving others was not the reason for you not to rise to certain heights. It is your partial engagement. There are some people who only get engaged in one domain of activity. They neglect other domains. And in this world, a whole lot of people, good-natured people, get excited and do work for others, and they don't do some hard work in clearing their own list of tasks. So one has to develop the habit of self-help as well as helping others. Both have to go hand in hand. Very rare is the case where somebody has only helped others and really had no time for himself. That is rather rare. Generally, one has time for oneself, but one wastes that time away because of some bad habit, no mood, and he feels tired, though he watches television till midnight. If you really were tired, where was the energy to watch television? So he has to ask himself. Anyway, yajna is the selfless service with tremendous potential for blessing others and for blessing oneself too. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.